Hello and welcome to Levels Plus Whenever episode 134. We are recapping all of the Switch related directs today, as well as just providing some post-direct thoughts. I have a lot of them. This is a long episode. So we'll just get into the pickups real quick so we can get through the rest. I got the physical Little Kitty Big City from Fangamer, and I got the deluxe edition. So it includes all kinds of things. So it's got a little booklet. It's got a Lost Kitty thing, which I think is quite cute. I'll probably hang that up somewhere in the house. But even cuter, I think, this is probably the one I am going to hang up in the house somewhere, for sure, is this poster. There's just all kinds of things. There's stickers. There's this little notepad. It came with the digital soundtrack as well, plus a physical frog hat. And before you ask, no, I'm not putting it on Flavia. She has already let me know that that is not acceptable. And then I also got Steam World Build from Super Rare. This one comes with a manual. It's great to have another Steam World game physically, and Heist 2 is going to be on its way shortly. So it'll be nice to actually be caught up on all of the Steam World games, because I have been waiting for them to go on sale physically. Alright, let's start this whole shebang with the Switch Direct from March. Alright, here we are. Different time of day. Thus the hat. This has been almost exhausting the last week in terms of trying to keep up with all of the Nintendo news, because it's been just truly a lot. And it culminated today with tariffs. That's right. Politics have entered the arena. Trump's tariffs have affected Nintendo of America's decision to do pre-orders next Wednesday as they originally planned, so they postponed them. But what we're gonna do is, I originally recorded myself talking about these directs and trying to catch all the news and all the things, and in the end I felt like it was very clunky and not very entertaining. We're going to try that again. We're going to look at the directs, both of them, real fast. We'll kind of speed through things, but I'll actually let the video play this time, because I didn't do that last time, and that's part of the reason why it felt clunky. Since I already edited these to be focusing on what I want to talk about, I think it's the most logical thing to do. So let's begin with the last, we presume, Switch 1 Direct. And we'll go ahead and make this full screen. Which launched with Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake, which was not at the Switch 2 Direct, interestingly enough. We are starting to get signs of games being announced for Switch 2 post-Direct. Sonic Cross Shadow Generations and Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster are apparently among the couple that have been announced post-Direct. But this was not. I haven't pre-ordered it yet. I would like to in the nearish future. I'm very excited. I played a little bit of 3. And I liked what I saw. It was very well done. This looks to be the same. And these games probably need the remake treatment even more than 3 did, because they're older. And there really was like the prototype of the Japanese role-playing genre on consoles. So I think it's great. Kanak's sister, I believe, is our new character that's joining the fray. I don't know if they've confirmed that, but that's a pretty logical guess. And so we have a pretty big opening announcement for something we already knew about, but it's good to see it. It's good to see that it looks good. Rido is coming to Switch. It's also coming to Switch 2. And PS4, PS5, I think Xbox as well. I don't know why Atlas seems doggedly determined to erase Shin Megami Tensei from everything that's spun off from it as of late. Soul Hackers 2, Persona, obviously, and now Rido. I don't quite get it, but you know, this looked pretty decent in the Switch reveal. It looks better on PS4, PS5, and on Switch 2, so the only reason to really get it for this system is if you don't have any other one. Shadow Labyrinth. I still don't know how to feel about this game. I think this was a better reveal than the Game Awards, which was really just done for shock factor, it felt like. But now it actually feels like a game that actually makes sense, and the Pac-Man component is actually blatant. I don't think I'm going to get this, though, because it looks like it's following in the steps of Hollow Knight, which I tried Hollow Knight and I couldn't get into it. Pateron, Sony franchise, once again gracing the Nintendo platforms. This did not get confirmed for Switch 2 in any capacity yet, but I would be surprised if it doesn't. But Bandai Namco's doing this, and apparently after getting the rights to Freedom Wars, they also asked, hey, you doing anything with Patapon? No, well, we would like to, and so they let them do it. Everybody Golf is also another one of those curious relationship things that's happening. So it makes me wonder, like, did Bandai Namco just get like carte blanche to go through Japan Studios archives? It's pretty neat. But this direct is actually full of rhythm games, and none of them are really my forte. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Looks a lot better on Switch 2, I will tell you that. Still looks really good on the Switch, but with Switch 2 really pushing the graphical fidelity with 120 frames per second performance mode at 1080, or a 4K 60 FPS mode for quality, the Switch 1 is not going to be able to do that. So it'll probably be worth the little bit of extra investment to just go ahead and get the Switch 2 edition instead. But I love Samus's new look. I think it's great. The new armor that they teased at the end is also fantastic. I like the fact she has psychic powers. The game looks gorgeous, and it looks like a Prime game. I am so in. I'm not going to stay on here for too long because I feel like we can just move along, because I think my opinion on Metroid is very obvious. Witchbrook. This is pretty neat looking. It's also coming to Switch 2. Coming out this holiday season sometime. It's like Stardew Valley, but at a wizard school. Which is much more appealing than the popular media interpretation that we are now forced to live with, and the transphobe that's behind it. But this looks cool. I don't know if it's one that interests me. Gradius Origins did not get announced for Switch 2. But this is an M2 Shot Triggers joint, and it's looking fantastic with bunches and bunches of versions of 6 Gradius games and a brand new one that M2 just decided to throw together. Salamander 2 has also never been ported outside of like the PSP in Japan. So great news all around, and it looks fantastic. Rift of the Necrodancer, another rhythm game I won't be able to play because my brain doesn't do rhythm properly, but I wanted to give this some props because I think that this franchise is great. I just can't get into it. Rhythm Heaven Groove. Boy, what was I just saying? This was a very pleasant surprise for fans of this game because they've been wondering when Rhythm Heaven would ever come back. And here it is. It looks cute, the music's pretty solid, but I'm not going to play it. And it's coming out in 2026 for some inexplicable reason. I'm still laughing that got the biggest reaction out of me this entire Direct, outside of maybe the Marvel tribute game. But let's skip ahead to Saga Frontier 2. This looks rough in hindsight. Like, when I was originally watching this trailer, I was pretty impressed, but the backgrounds just look AI manipulated at this stage. And I looked at the PS1 graphics, it looked better there, even with the noticeable downgrade in picture quality. But like, these backgrounds look bad. They looked better. So unfortunately, I think I'm going to pass. Monument Valley 1 and 2 and 3 are coming to Switch. I can't remember if they were in the Switch 2 Direct, maybe. I'm interested in trying the first one and see if this is something that I'm into. These were pretty well received indie titles on mobile. And they look cool. Sometimes just really contemplative games are fun. Everybody's Golf, Hot Shots, the other Bandai Namco Sony crossover. I really thought Camelot was doing this, but it's actually one of Bandai Namco's internal studios, Hyde, who have never worked on this before. But they look like they've got their homework. They've made it look like a Camelot game. I don't know if Clap Hands, who took over from Camelot after the first one, just kept this style going, but it certainly looks like if Mario Golf lost the license again. But it looks a lot better than We Love Golf, and it won't have motion controls forced upon us. So I'm actually very excited about this game, oddly enough. It's something I could play with my parents, and that's always a good thing in my book. Marvel Cosmic Invasion looks incredible. I am so stoked that Tribute is once again teaming up with .emu to do a beat 'em up. They did such a great job with Shredder's Revenge, and this looks like it's taking Konami's X-Men and Sega's Spider-Man and Captain America and the Avengers by Data East and basically leaving them all in the freaking dust. This was probably the coolest thing that was announced, in my opinion, at this Direct. And it's coming to Switch 2. And last but not least, in terms of what I actually kept in this thing, is Tomodachi Life Livin' the Dream. I'm not going to buy this, but I'm looking forward to being a part of Keita Nash's community and goofing around with it, and how we probably will do a silly Fire Emblem town once the game comes out in 2026. But we do have to do the meme. I can't not do the meme. That would just be wrong. This was very funny. I thought this was great. Good comedy. So yeah, I think on the whole this Direct was not offensive, but didn't do tons for me. Let's jump back to... Oh, there's Donkey Kong. Yeah, we got a new Donkey Kong game, but he's at the end, so we're going to have to go the other side of things. Let's get into Mario Kart World. This is the flagship game for the Switch 2. This is the game that is the sequel to the best-selling Switch game. It sold so many copies over the Switch's 8-ish years of life. And we are so back, it looks like, with how they are approaching this Mario Kart. It looks like it's not Mario Kart 8 again, but it's kind of like Mario Kart meets Sonic and Sega All-Star Racing Transformed, plus Outrun, plus Wave Race, plus maybe a bit of Diddy Kong Racing. All good things to be inspired by. There's costumes and grinding and wall jumping and a whole bunch of new racers and open world racing and new power-ups. It looks fantastic too. The cartoony style that Nintendo has brought to the Mario franchise following Super Mario Bros. Wonder is perfect. Peach's new jacket and jeans shorts combo is winning over fans already. It's a great new costume for her. And I just think that the visuals look fantastic. And the music was great. Impressions have been solid. We're going to skip a little bit past these guys. I'm sorry. But yeah, there's like so many random enemies as cart drivers now. It's kind of ludicrous. The crab sidestepper from Mario Brothers is in here. The penguins from Super Mario 64. The snowman from Frappe Snowland is in here. The dolphins from Mario World. The little cute winged beetle things that are not parabeetles that appeared in like 3D Land and 3D World. Panadas are in here. It's just absolutely wild. The Grand Prix mode, you get to drive between the courses, which is different. So it's kind of like you just never stop driving. I do hope there's a mode that allows you to turn that off, because sometimes you just want to do the courses. But they all look fantastic. There's so much going on. There's 24 racers going on at once. The downside. The downside to all of this cool stuff that Nintendo has put into this Mario Kart is that they felt that it was worth a $20, not $10, $20 price hike from the standard $69.99 that has been the going rate for like PS5 and Xbox Series games and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So we are expected to pay $89.99 to get into this new Mario Kart. And I'm not really a fan. There's a bundle that, before the tariffs, was going to be $50 on top of the price of the console to get Mario Kart digitally on the Switch 2. And sure, that sounds so much better than $80. But that might change. And that is the sad reality that we are now in, is that we are now stuck in a world where prices that were already freakishly high are going to probably get higher because Nintendo has these consoles made in countries that have been hit with 35 to 50% tariffs from our dictator-in-chief, rapist in charge. Yes, I'm still going to call him those things because they haven't changed. So, if I get a Switch 2, because it's going to depend on how much it is when pre-orders go up, I'm going to try to get the bundle, because I will be honest, Mario Kart, even with an open world focus and a lot of the really cool stuff that they're doing, is not my favorite Nintendo franchise. I would rather put that money into Metroid Prime 4 Beyond for the Switch 2, which is also, I believe, $70 to $80. By the way, the Switch is $449.99 by itself before tariffs, and $499.99 with Mario Kart. So I think this looks fantastic. Do I think it looks $80 fantastic? No. So I will not be buying this game by itself. I am just making that call despite how good it looks, how awesome things are flowing, and I really think it's capturing so much of what I would like in a Mario Kart. I don't feel like paying that price. If I could get it with the Switch 2 for an extra $50, fine. I will be happy to do that. Otherwise, I will wait and buy it used and not give Nintendo any money, because that's just how I feel about this really lousy pricing thing they've decided to do. Alright, so the C button on the controller. What's that C button doing? Well, it's doing game chat, which is Discord on your Switch 2, essentially. You can have 4 windows open, including your own, it seems. You can all talk to each other in a microphone that's built into the Switch 2 that apparently is smart and can detect voice and cut out other noise. And these windows can share what they're playing, as well as, with a camera added on, have your faces. So the frame rate is really bad in these bottom screens, not gonna lie. But it could be really cool to be able to have something integrated into the Switch 2. You don't have to put your PC on. You can just go ahead, put your Switch 2 on, hit that C button, and interact with your friends and have a good time. And they're going to retroactively add it to a bunch of games like Animal Crossing and Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and looks like Nintendo Classics, which is what they're renaming all of the apps for the retro consoles, among others. So you can do some cool stuff with these games and be able to play with your friends on your Switch 2 relatively easily. And I think that's neat. It is a Nintendo Switch Online feature, so they're going to allow it to be free until March of next year, I believe. And then you're going to have Nintendo Switch Online to use it. So if you don't have Nintendo Switch Online and you accidentally tap that C button, you are more than likely going to get a lovely Nintendo Switch Online ad telling you to use this feature. You're going to have to pay us money. And that's going to be kind of lousy if you just accidentally hit that button because it's right below the home button. Anyway, I think it's kind of neat. I'll see if I ever want to use it. I have no ideas if I do. Another cool thing that they're doing, and this one I actually think is neater personally. We're skipping all the tech, and this welcome tour is ridiculous. How dare Nintendo think they can charge $7 for this really unenthusiastic looking museum tour mode of walking around on Joy-Con? This looks so dull. It's the ideal thing to put on the Switch 2 as a pack-in, but no, we're gonna pay money for it. I don't know if I like arrogant Nintendo era. I don't know if I do. Somewhere in here is Game Share, and I can't seem to find it. You can share Switch 1 games with Switch 1 owners if you have a Switch 2. I don't know if that's going to carry on backwards more than that, but it's neat, and I like it. I think that they should be doing more of that kind of stuff. Yeah, so let's skip the tour. The date is June 5th. That's not changing because of tariffs. But let's talk about Nintendo Switch 2 Edition versions of games, because this is kind of a big deal and another one of those talking points. So, Super Mario Party Jamboree really makes sense. They wanted to do more with it, so here we go. It's not the more you probably wanted them to do with it, because it's not more game boards, it's new modes that utilize the game chat features, including your camera. So you can now have your faces showing up in Mario Party, which is kind of cute. There's now mouse-based games and voice-based games. And the Rumble is even better. Then they added a few new features that utilize the mouse controls and the new features of the Switch 2, like being able to blow on the microphone, so to speak, or talk on the microphone and tell your cart to go. I think this is a really great idea because Mario Party has that chaotic energy, and it's going to be great for streamers if they want to deal with the lower frame rate of having multiple screens going on. I think this is a really great idea and would be worth the extra $20 to $30 that they're asking for it, because it's got a lot that they added to it. I don't quite remember the pricing of this. I'm gonna check. Hello and welcome to Target. We are looking at the original Super Mario Bros. Jamboree. It is $60. Super Mario Jamboree Nintendo Switch Edition is $79.99. So it's a $20 price hike. If we compare with other games, which I'm going to do on a different screen. We'll go back to my face for a second. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is $79.99, was originally $59.99. Legend of Zelda and Tears of the Kingdom are only $10 more each. We don't know what Metroid Prime or Pokemon Legends is going to do quite yet. I'll just say it while we're here. Donkey Kong Bonanza is $69.99. Joy-Cons are $89.99 for a set of 2. Pro controllers are $80. Yeah. And then you can get an special micro SD Express card because you can only use Express cards with the Switch 2. They're $60 for one that is comparable in size to what the Switch 2 already has on it, which is 256 gigs. And then the Nintendo Switch camera is $50. So much stuff. Okay, we're out of price. At least putting it in here somewhere. Let's go back. Okay, back to looking at this. So I think that $20 more is probably justifiable because I think the content that they've added makes sense. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. They're mostly visual based. So you'll get enhanced resolution and frame rates. Colors are brighter thanks to HDR. The frame rate looks better as well. It's a little less smoochy. And then there's the new Zelda Notes feature that'll be coming to the Nintendo Switch Online app. So you can pull out your phone and have a GPS. Yay! Kirby's is more exciting because it's an entirely new world that you get to explore with a new story. So it being $20 more kind of makes sense. It also looks and runs a little bit better thanks to the extra hardware power. Metroid Prime primarily is cosmetic, but you do get mouse controls if you want those. But the big thing is that they are really upping the quality of the visuals and frame rate. 4K 60 frames per second HDR for quality, or performance in 1080p with 120 frames per second. And handheld is a little bit downgraded, but the frame rate's the same. And it looks fantastic. What little bit we got to see of it here looks good. Even Pokemon Legends ZA looks like it could actually run a frame rate. Game Freak finally can put a game out that won't run like shit. Anyway, that's enough Pokemon. But yeah, all these are coming out soonish, and if you have the Nintendo Switch version, you can just buy an upgrade pack so you don't have to buy the whole thing twice. We don't know what those cost. I'm gonna estimate that Zelda's are 10 and Kirby and Super Mario Party are 20, just based on the price increase to the games. We'll find out. Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack owners are going to get a perk with the Zelda games being available for free, which is kind of nice. Drag and Drive, or Drag Cross Drive. I don't know how they're referring to it. I'm all for the accessibility. I think it's great that we have characters in wheelchairs and showing them doing cool stuff. Need more of this in games. I don't care for the controls. So unfortunately, this game is almost specifically designed to not be one I want to play. Then we get into a whole bunch of third-party stuff. And we'll get rid of the blue bar at the top because I forgot that it was on. Because I don't look at the OBS screen, I look at the full screen. Sorry, I'm not re-recording it. It's okay. Perfectionism is blight upon humanity. Elden Ring was the first third-party game that they showed off. Very appropriate. Definitely doesn't look as good as it does on other systems, but you'll get to play it portably, and that matters to a lot of people. And as we will see, FromSoft is a very important partner for the Switch 2. Hades 2 is coming, and it looks really solid. I will probably still get this on PS5, though, because I have Hades 1 on PS5. Street Fighter 6. The biggest thing is that they're adding some interesting Switch controls. The fact you could play it in handheld mode. It's kind of neat, but you'll get some Joy-Con specific stuff. But the wild thing is that you can get a Season 1-2 combo, so you'll get all the characters, and for Switch, they're charging $60 for getting the extra 8 characters and stages and colors, not costumes. But they're also doing amiibo. There's 3 physical amiibo. Ryu and Ken from Smash also will work. And then they're releasing cards with art for the rest. No word if we're getting more amiibo than what we currently have. But Luke, Jamie, and Kimberly's cards are essentially amiibo. Walmart put these amiibo up for pre-order in quotes because they're not available yet for $30, which given how much it costs to buy costumes through the Fighter's Coin brouhaha in Street Fighter 6, unfortunately and tragically makes sense. I hope that is just an accident, because that basically eliminated my desire to buy these amiibo. I'm not going to get this for the Switch 2, and there's multiple reasons. One, I already have it on PS5. I also want to physically own games, and this is a key card, which I suppose Street Fighter 6 is as good a point as any to talk about a entirely new way to not own your games. Kind of. Maybe. We're not really sure yet. Hello, it's me again. For the Switch 1, a common practice was to release games in a physical box with a download code inside that you would plug into your Nintendo Switch redeem code slot in the eShop, and the game would magically download onto your system. But you didn't physically own it. You owned a box. Nintendo has changed that. So now you can get a key card, which is a physical item, but it doesn't have any data on it. The only thing it has is a key code, which when you plop it into your, let's pretend, Switch 2, as so, you will instantly download the game and be able to play it as long as you have the card in there, because the card acts as the key. Haha. For you to be able to do that. However, we don't know if putting it into this Switch, we'll just say this Switch 2, means that it can only work on this Switch 2. Or can I give my key card to a friend who has a Switch 2, and they can plop it in their Switch, and the key code will work and download the game on their Switch 2. That's what I don't know, and Nintendo hasn't said. And that's going to affect the resale value. Are we effectively getting plastic junk that if we don't like the game or don't want it anymore, we can't do anything with it, but we had to keep it because we couldn't play the game without it? Or is it just another way to get a physical game, but you basically can't own it because you have to download it, and if something decides it doesn't want to be up anymore, are you just stuck with a voided out keycard? There's problems with this system. It's a little bit better, but it depends on the implementation. If it is ultimately a one-use only, put it on this Switch too, and my imaginary brother wants to play it on his Switch too, I can't give it to him because it's locked to mine. That could be where the game share comes in, so I can play it with my imaginary sister as well. But yeah, that's basically what that whole thing is. And it will tell you pretty prominently on the box that it's a keycard. Street Fighter 6 is one of these, and Bravely Default HD Remaster is one of these, and everyone's trying to figure out what the rest of them are. This has an impact on my desire to buy Switch 2 games, because will this affect games that are not ports? Am I going to have to get Splatoon 4 on a game keycard, for example? Am I going to have to get indie games on a keycard? Am I going to have to own... Is a majority of third-party games going to be keycards? Because that's going to really affect my interest in buying Switch 2 games that are not by Nintendo. Because Nintendo, at least for the time being, doesn't have any plans for any keycard games of their own. But who knows when that will change. Anyway, let's move along. Because there's other things to talk about than just keycards. We've got a new Daemon X Machina game. It looks pretty good, but I'm not interested in it, really. But I will say it looks a lot better than the original one on the Switch did. The frame rate is better, the graphics look a lot better, the gameplay looks more interesting, but it's still... I'm just not really into mech games. Hitman! The good ones. Really good ones. They're coming to Switch, World of Assassination Signature Edition. And they're also bringing James Bond with the exact same trailer they used 4 years ago. And here's Bravely Default. I'm going to be honest. Out of everything that was in this direct, this should have been at the Switch 1 Direct. And I'm going to switch back to the video because I realized I was still on my face. Again, I look at the screen, not the OBS screen. So here is Bravely Default. It still looks a lot like a 3DS game to me. It doesn't look as sharp as I would like it to. And we know that it can be done. Miitopia is a great example. I think the Alliance Alive and Legacy of Legend, or Legend of Legacy, whatever that is, those were done quite well. Ghost Trick for the DS looks phenomenal. So I just feel like Square Enix kind of half-assed this. And unfortunately, I think because they got a little burned on trying to put in varying amounts of effort on their earlier releases, they're just kind of not putting in effort on everything that's not a major release. So like their B-level, C-level games are really looking at in comparison to before. That's just my hot take. Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, a Switch possibly timed exclusive, is coming with some overhauled visuals, some new story elements, some new gameplay pieces. There's new cutscenes. It's going to be at a launch, too. So, you know, I think it's great that Yakuza's finally getting full-on Nintendo. Here's the saddest game in the collection of games that we saw. Because this should have been a home run. This should have been a home run. And it ended up being the worst thing Nintendo showed, in my opinion. Because it looks rough. Like, the Zelda looks fine. The character models look fine. It's the backgrounds in the foreground, like the grass texture that's about to pop up. That looks really rough in comparison. it just doesn't look very good in terms of just environment look. Like the combat here, that looks pretty sick. I'm really hoping that Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment uses the next 6 months to really clean up, because this could be a really great game. Something that the Japanese Direct showed that we did not see in ours is that there's more Tears of the Kingdom amiibo coming that are compatible with this game as well. So all of our sages are coming as amiibo, which I'm really excited about, because Sidon's one of them, Riju's one. I forget the Zonai character who's in the mech. I forget her name. I want to get those 3 for sure. I'll probably get the other 2 as well, because I actually like all of the sages, which is a nice contrast from Breath of the Wild, where I hated Rivali. But I hope Koei Tecmo and AAA Game Studio, who I've never heard of before, can polish this up in the next few months, because I want it to. Yo! GameCube games are coming to NSO, and they've rebranded them, as I said, to Nintendo Classics, which is a much better name. The starting lineup is pretty good. Pretty freaking good. Wind Waker! HD Remaster's dead. That dream is gone. Which I think a lot of people are okay with. Outside of the fast sale and some refinements to the Tingle Triforce Shard Parade, a lot of people didn't like the visual overhaul that HD Remaster had, because it lost the cell shading and it looks really like bloomed out. It was Nintendo's first real attempt to HD something that had been done before, and I think it shows a bit. I suspect that Twilight Princess HD Remaster is also going to suffer the same fate, and that Twilight Princess will just get added to the GameCube app down the road. It wasn't confirmed yet, but I think it's kind of likely if Wind Waker is here. We also got the very pleasant surprise of Soul Calibur 2, arguably the best one, although I still love the Dreamcast one the most. So this is great, and it brings Link back. This has never been re-released, and it looks pretty good. And then we get F-Zero GX, Sega's take on the classic franchise, and arguably the best F-Zero game. Certainly the most visually impressive, and the wildest F-Zero game in terms of story and cutscenes. It's just great to see it come back. I'm really happy that we're getting GameCube games on the Switch too. And on top of that, it's online. You can rearrange buttons finally. And suspending and all that stuff's still there. You can do game share, game chat stuff. And then they also announced a new GameCube controller, and then Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. Unfortunately, the only Fire Emblem we got in this entire thing. But hey, this game is expensive. I know that because I paid an expensive amount to get it back. You're welcome. I sacrificed for you. It's interesting that Mario Sunshine's here, but I think it's ultimately a good thing, even though I hate that game. But we got the Pokemon games that came out exclusive on the GameCube, both XD and Coliseum. Super Mario Strikers was confirmed, Chibi Robo, as well as Luigi's Mansion. There's a whole bunch more that I hope get announced real soon, including third-party Skies of Arcadia. Could happen on the Switch too, if Sega decides to join in. But they did have some pretty big indies show up here, with Silksong, with Hades 2, and Deltarune, among a couple others. Konami's bringing back Survival Kids from the Game Boy Color. I hate the art design, so I'm not going to get this. Notice what happened there? It stopped. It stopped. Nintendo of America's stream was a shit show of epic proportions. This is easily the worst technical disaster Nintendo of America has ever had with a Nintendo Direct that I can remember in the entire time they've done them. The screen just froze, and the audio kept going. And the audio was also desynced the entire time. And there were little glitches showing up on words throughout the whole stream. A lot of people were watching this. That's probably part of what happened, is that they taxed things way too much because there were millions of people probably watching. But it basically ruined the rest of the presentation through a lot of the third-party reveals that came up afterwards. And there was some stuff that was kind of a big deal. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade's coming. We missed the beginning of that. Enter the Gungeon 2 had its first gameplay ever shown. A brand new Astroneer game was shown off. All of that was lost. Thanks to this. So I had to cut back in to actually continue on. So here's Enter the Gungeon 2's first reveal. I'm not interested, but I think it's great that this game looks pretty solid, and fans of the original will probably be into it. We got the Starseeker game after that, which looks way too multiplayer for my liking, but I think that's cool. Then we got Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, which looks pretty damn good. So we know where their budget went. It went into this game, not into Bravely Default. Hollow Knight Silksong, as I was just joking, just randomly shoved in here with a 2025 release date. There's a whole bunch of rapid fire stuff. I'm going to skip most of it, and we're going to get to what's really the big thing of this entire presentation. The really big thing. The really, really big thing that we got more information on today, so I could at least talk a bit more about it. This is a new FromSoft game exclusive to the Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo's doing it. Nintendo. This is a Nintendo FromSoft collaboration. This is wild. It's also a multiplayer-focused game. It's also wild. There's characters you pick from. You don't create a character. You pick a character and you can customize them. So that's a little different as well. But this game certainly caught a lot of people's attention. And it is a true, authentic FromSoft experience. Miyazaki himself is directing it. So FromSoft is giving this as much attention as they would Elden Ring or a Dark Souls game. And it could be considered in a lot of ways a spiritual successor to Bloodborne. Because it essentially has that gothic, industrial, somewhat modern vibe to it. So, eat shit, Sony, I guess? What a colossal fuck up on Sony's part. To just basically go, Bloodborne came out 10 years ago, was really successful, a lot of people love it, let's just ignore that shit. Gotta shit talk Sony somewhere, I guess. Anyway, we'll just stop right here at the dinosaur, because I think that's just such a wild thing to see, is that you can transform into this dinosaur thing and eat people. You can see some of the elements of the multiplayer, because you can see, I think that was the character that was just getting eaten. I'm curious about this, but I will probably not invest, because most of their stuff is just not my style. Alright. 2 games left. Let's skip into the actual trailer. This was pretty quick to me. Sakurai trailer. He has a look. He has an aesthetic. And this really reminded me of Smash trailers very quickly. It's not a Smash trailer. It's Kirby Air Riders, a return to the last game Sakurai worked on for HAL Labs before leaving to form his own company at Sora, which is essentially him and his wife, and basically doing Smash and Meteos, and one other game that I don't remember the name of. Until now. He has returned to HAL Labs with Bandai Namco, his very faithful team that has worked on 2 Smash games with him, to make a new Kirby Air Ride. And I am so happy for him. He's doing something unique and different and fun, and I hope that he's having a great time. I really do. Because I have a feeling that when Air Riders comes out this year, that he will be back on to Smash to do an Ultimate Switch 2 edition with more stuff. I have a sinking suspicion. We'll see if that's true. But let's get to the big announcement that they ended the show with: Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction Gorilla Edition. I couldn't be happier. I have never been so excited for a Donkey Kong game since the original arcade one came out before I was even born, to be completely honest. I want this game real bad, and I am okay paying the extra bit of money to do so, because it looks phenomenal. I love Donkey Kong's super cartoony expressions. I love the way he now looks. I love the fact that you're basically Hulk, and you get to run up walls and basically destroy whatever you want. Punch through the ground. Why not? Grab the ground and rip it out, then smash it with that big old rock. Go into the ground. Throw it into walls. I am so ecstatic about this game. It looks so fun. Everything about it is like my jam. This is what I have never knew I wanted, was Donkey Kong being the Incredible Hulk in an Ultimate Destruction spiritual successor. I'm so excited. So excited that this is the game I'm most excited about, at least from Nintendo, for the Switch 2. And there's so much more to come. We know. I bet there'll be another Direct in June, shortly after the launch, around the time frame of Summer Games Fest. We'll get the rest of the year, probably another update on Hyrule Warriors and Metroid Prime 4 and other stuff. But I think this was a great end cap game to round everything up with. And this was rumored to be in existence as a Switch game, that there was a Donkey Kong platformer from the Odyssey team. This is likely it. It looks very Odyssey, and it's also not that far after the launch. Alright, that's all the things, and I stopped it on this Donkey Kong screen because I thought it was great. But I think if I could find the banana. I will say that, like I said, I think this was an A-, because there's a lot of stuff that is exciting, but there's also a lot of stuff that's worrying. The hype level I'm pretty stoked about. Especially like when I look at this, and I'm just like, I want to play this really bad. I'm glad that I could be excited about a Donkey Kong game, because I can't tell you the last time I was excited about a Donkey Kong game. Like I said, I wasn't even born yet. Nintendo's got a lot to figure out, though. The tariff thing, which I have strongly implied has been a big problem for me. I took the day off to pre-order stuff, and now I can't because tariffs. I'm still taking the day off. I'm just going to spend it doing something creative instead. And decompress. The pricing is worrisome, especially with tariffs. We're going to have to see what Nintendo does. And there will probably be a breaking news video once that's actually ironed out and we see what Nintendo's doing. that's basically been a lot of the news cycle today, is analysts trying to figure out, well, what is Nintendo going to do? Are they going to raise the prices more that people are already complaining about? I didn't expect Nintendo to be the one to push the game prices up, though. I will say that. I have a whole bunch of Treehouse stuff to catch up on. I haven't watched hardly any of it to really get more of a sense of how these games look and play. I've read a little bit, and generally the games have been positively received, as best as I can tell. It's just unfortunate that Nintendo is a little bit arrogant, and I'm getting a little bit of Wii vibes. I don't like the Wii era of Nintendo. And something I was thinking about today after I went to work is I haven't seen Doug Bowser in a long time. You remember when Reggie was always on Nintendo Directs? Doug's in the background. Our current Nintendo of Japan president, Fujiwara? I can't quite remember his name. He's also in the background. I couldn't tell you what he looks like. I couldn't. The public-facing executive era of Nintendo that was basically the Wii through the early Switch is gone. They're relying a lot more on particular staff to carry these directs instead of the president. And I kind of miss Iwata, you know? Iwata was really entertaining. He made the directs a lot of fun. Reggie made the directs a lot of fun. But this is just a different era of Nintendo, and it's very obvious in hindsight that we are. This is not the same Nintendo that brought us directs in the first place. And in some ways that's okay, in some ways that's a little worrisome. But Nintendo's got a lot to prove following this direct. We will see what they do with their tariffs evaluation, because they could really fuck themselves over and pull a Sony with the PlayStation 3 and raise this thing up to a price that people will just say, you know, I could live without that. And honestly, I was okay with $500 with Mario Kart, but I will probably not pay more than that. I can wait because I've got a PS5. I've got a Switch 1. We're still getting games that a lot of them are getting either free upgrades or payable upgrades. I could just get the Switch version of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and then when I get a Switch 2, just upgrade it. And then I could wait to play it until I have a Switch 2. I could be extremely patient. I had big plans to buy a whole bunch of stuff. I may not now because of what's going on. Time will tell. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to re-record this, because I recorded it before the tariff news came out and pre-orders were moved to an indefinite period, and basically it's affected my whole day, and I really needed to rant, get some of it out. I feel better now, and I feel like this helped me process some feelings, so thank you for inadvertently being very good for me to process, dear viewers. And this will be where we call it, because I don't have much else to say at this stage. I'm not going to go look up all of the stuff that I talked about in the original video, because I thought that it was a little bit, like I said, all over the place. I just want it to end. I want to be good where I'm sitting with the Switch 2, which is if they don't change the prices, I'm in. If they go up like even $50 for the system with Mario Kart, I'm out. I can wait. I can trade in stuff and try to get one, or I can just be patient and wait. So that's where I sit with all of the things that we just got shoved down our eye holes. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you in the next episode, which will not be about this at all. It will be about something else. I appreciate you. Take care.